Hi everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk, and this is Misty, and thank you for joining us today. This is the project that I've been making today. It is a little box that holds in this case it's holding a little bar of chocolate as a little thank you gift, and if you stick with me I will show you how I made it. These are the things that I'm going to be using today. I have 2 pieces of sweet Sugarplum card. One is going to be for the base, one is going to be for the lid, and we're going to work out what size we need to cut those a little bit later on. And I've also got some pieces of rich raspberry DSP. That pattern's going to be retiring. I've got a scrap of Whisper White for stamping on. This happens to be left over from another project, and I've also got a scrap of sweet Sugarplum for die cutting and punching out. I'm going to use rich raspberry ink, and I'm going to be using the Happy Happenings stamps, and again these are retiring at the end of May, so if you want them and they're still in stock because things are flying out of the door, don't hang around, get your order in straight away. And I'm going to be using the Layering Circles framelets. I'm going to explain how I work out what size I need to cut the card for my box base and for my box lid. Now, if you're not really interested in that, you just want to know how to make a box that will fit something that is about this size, then jump ahead to this point in the video, and that will be where I start doing the scoring and the folding and the cutting and all the rest of it. So if you're staying with me now, I'm assuming that you want to know how I calculate the size of my box for my bar of chocolate. Now, the box could be for any item of roughly this size. All right, could be a bar of soap. I don't know. It could be jewellery. It could be anything that will fit into a smallish rectangular box with double sides. All right. Now, I measured my bar of chocolate ahead of time, and I've discovered that it is 2 3/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches by 1/2 inch. If I make a box that's exactly that size, for one thing it's going to be really difficult to get the bar of chocolate into it. It's going to be a real squash, and it's going to be even more difficult to get it out again later. So we want to add a little bit of room, a bit of wiggle room. Okay, so we're going to add 1/4 inch to all of those dimensions. So that then becomes 3 by 2 by 3/4 inch. Right, and that is the size of my finished box base. And I've made a prototype. It's always a good idea to make sure that you have got your numbers right. And as you can see, that is a nice snug fit. Okay, so I now want to make a box with a base of that size, but actually I am going to be wrapping my chocolate, and if I wrap my DSP around it, where's it gone? My bit of DSP, here it is, then that makes it just that little bit fatter, and it makes it more difficult to get that into the box. So I'm going to add a further bit of wiggle room onto that. So I'm going to make it 3 1/8 by 2 1/8 by 3/4 inch. Right, so that's going to be my finished box base dimensions. So let me draw that on my plan. Okay, so there's my box base. So that's 3 1/8, and that's 2 1/8, and I'm going to add 3/4 inch all the way around. Okay, let's draw those. That's where I'm going to be scoring. Now, if I was making a single walled box, that would be the numbers that I would be using. But because I'm making a double walled box, I'm going to add another 3/4 inch all the way around. So those are the dimensions that I'm going to need for my box. So now I can do my adding up. Now I know 3/4 of an inch plus 3/4 of an inch is 1.5 inches. So that's 1.5, and that's 1.5. And 1.5 and 1.5 is 3, and 3 and 3 and 1/8 is 6 and 1/8 of an inch. All right. So the same thing going this way. So it's 3/4 of an inch plus 3/4 of an inch is 1.5 inches, and the same thing on this side. 1.5 and 1.5 is 3, and 3 plus 2 and 1/8 is 5 and 1/8. Okay, so I'm going to cut my box for my base 6 and 1/8 by 5 and 1/8. Now, box has a lid, and there's a number of different ways of deciding how much bigger to make the box lid than the box base, but I found that for this kind of box, if I add on an extra 1/8 of an inch to these dimensions, so that then becomes 6 1/4, and that becomes 5 1/4, then that works pretty well. And that is what I did for my box prototype. And as you can see, that is a nice, reasonably snug fit, but not too tight. So those are the dimensions that I'm going to cut my sweet sugar plum card. This is going to be my base piece, and this is the piece that is 6 1/8 by 5 1/8, and I'm just going to score this at 3/4 of an inch, and again at 1.5 inches. And I'm going to rotate the card. I'm going to do the same thing again. So 3/4 of an inch and 1.5 inches, and that way I don't have to worry about that pesky 1/8 of an inch making calculations difficult. So again, 3/4 of an inch and 1.5 inches, and 3/4 of an inch and 1.5 inches. Okay. And this piece is going to be the lid, and it is 6 1/4 inches by 5 1/4, and again exactly the same, scoring at 3/4 of an inch and 1.5 inches, 3/4 of an inch, 1.5 inches, 3/4 of an inch, 1.5 inches, There we are, and that is my scoring, done. So now I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to burnish these folds. I'm going to work on the lid first. I'm going to show you how to construct how the construction works based on the lid. Base is pretty much exactly the same. So I don't need all of this card. All right. So let me get my pen and let me show you what I'm going to cut away. So I don't need these bits here. Okay. Don't need any of them. 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 So basically I'm cutting away the 3 small squares that are in the corners. Now I'm also going to take some little slivers out of these edges, okay, and on these tabs here, these are going to be the tabs, just to make sure that it all fits together nicely. And I'm going to speed up this part of the process, so I'll talk to you again in a minute. Now the base is going to be made in exactly the same way, but I'm just going to do one more thing to the lid, and that is to bring in a 1/2 inch circle punch. And I'm just going to fold that piece back and I'm just going to kind of by eye just decide where I want this to go, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out a little notch to make it a little bit easier to get the box opened and closed. So I'm just going to do that there, and I can do the same on the other side, directly opposite, and it just makes it a little bit easier to do it at this stage of the proceedings rather than once you've stuck everything together, which is what I did on the prototype. So, and again, just lining it up and just snip that out, okay? And if they're not exactly even, don't worry, because it's very difficult to see both sides of the box at the same time. So, yeah, you see those are not even, but chances are, in use, nobody's going to notice. Right. Now I'm going to apply my adhesive, and I'm going to use tear and tape, and I'm going to put some tear and tape on each of these tabs, and I'm putting this at the what's going to be the top surface, what's going to be the outside of the box, okay? And I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to apply my tape along these surfaces. Now this could be fast fuse, it could be liquid adhesive. I wouldn't use snail, not for card, although when you come to apply the decoration, if you're just applying a bit of paper on the top, then that is where snail comes into its own. Okay. So now I'm going to remove the backing from the flaps, the tabs, whatever you want to call them. Okay. And I'm just going to close up the box, fold that back out of the way so that you can see what I'm doing, and just bring those sides and edges together. And just take a little bit of time to make sure that they're all nicely lined up. Just like that. Okay. And if this was a single walled box, that would now be complete because these pieces wouldn't be there, obviously. And I'm just going to take the backing off that and just tuck that in. And I really do like this kind of box because it's nice and sturdy, and it's nicely finished. You don't see any tabs sticking out and spoiling the appearance of the thing, and it looks, you know, it looks quite professional, especially if you take a bit more time over cutting out your notches than I did. But hey ho. Come on. Off you come. There you go. Okay. So that now is the lid of my box. Pretty much finished. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and do the same to the base, and then we'll decide how we want to decorate it. I'm going to use these two stamps from the Happy Happenings set, and I've got my Rich Razzleberry ink and my Whisper White card, and I'm going to ink up my thank you stamp, and I'm just going to put it about there. Okay, and the other part of the sentiment. This is what I like about this set. I am going to miss it actually. I'm going to miss demoing with it because it's always nice to have the complementary sentiments. Okay, right. I'm going to bring in my layering circles framelets, and I'm going to decide which ones I need to cut out these sentiments. Now I want to find one that just fits. I think that is going to be, that's too big. I think the next size down actually just does it. And will it also fit there? Yes, it will. So this is the size of circle framelit that I'm going to use, and I'm also going to cut out the scalloped edge. Okay, so that looks like it's going to give me a nice bit of scallop, so I'm going to go away to the big shot. I'm going to cut these out and I shall be right back. I'm going to start putting it all together now, and first of all I'm going to wrap my bar of chocolate, and I've cut my piece of rich raspberry to 2 3/4 inches by about 5.5, and I've got my tearing tape on the bottom, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this around the bar of chocolate quite loosely, and take the backing off the tearing tape, which doesn't want to come. There you go. And I'm just going to wrap that around like that, just so that it covers it up. All right, and then I'm going to put the "for always being there for me." That bit's going to be on the inside. So the outside message is going to be "thank you," and this is just going to say "for always being there for me," just like that. Snail is fine for this job. A bit of snail there as well. Let's just centre that onto the inside. Okay, and now that fits nicely in there, and there's a little bit of wiggle room. I can get it in and out easily, and I'm happy with that. Okay, so now let's work on the lid a bit. So piece of rich raspberry, which I've cut to 2 3/4 by 1 1/4. Hello, Misty. Please don't sit down there. Come on. Okay. And I'm just going to stick that onto the lid. So Misty has decided to, this is a good place to sit and to have a wash. And she's sitting on, come on, move your bum. Meow, yes. She's not pleased with me now. Off you go. I've got one of the little doilies, and it's going to be too big to put the whole thing on there, but if I take my snips and yep, that's going to work. If I just take away this little central portion here, and again these doilies, they were they're in the spring and summer catalogue, and they are not being carried over. So again, if you want them, and if they're still in stock, which at the moment I don't know whether they will be because I film these things ahead of time, then you need to be quick. Okay, right, so for this one I'm going to put a little bit of snail in the middle, and I'm going to put the doily with the white side up. Okay, because one side is Whisper White and one side is Very Vanilla, and we're going to have a dimensional on the back of the thank you. And I don't know whether you can hear, but Missy is sitting next to me scratching her ears. Okay, so her daddy is not going to be very pleased with her. Okay, so I'm going to decide where I want that to be, and I think I'm going to go with centered. I did think about putting it off center a little bit, but you know what? No, I'm going to go with centered. But you know, you have choices. And I think if I had a bit more time and I was playing with a few more embellishments, I could really kind of, you know, I could really jazz this up quite a bit. But you know what? We're just gonna be fairly straightforward, because If you had quite a lot of these to make, if you were making, you know, lots of little thank you gifts for teachers at the end of the year, then you probably wouldn't want to be spending an awful lot of time putting embellishments on. Okay, and there you go, and the lid fits nice and snugly, and there it is, all done. So there is the finished box, and what do you think of it, Misty? I don't know whether she's terribly impressed or whether it's because she can hear next door's dog barking, but she's sticking her tongue out at me, which is never good. But I hope that you've enjoyed this video anyway, and if so, then please don't forget to comment, to click the like button, to share and to subscribe to my channel. I would really love to have you come back again soon. Misty and I are going to go away and do something else now, so thank you once again for joining me, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. I know where things are gone either. Go on, shoo. Shoo, 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 shoo.